Yeah, so as you're noticing though, something to just this is why suspending judgment is good because you are self-regulating. You're going, there's this thing I need to do, and I need to bring my overwhelm down to a manageable place in order for me to continue.
Welcome to Take 3 and Call Me in the Morning, a podcast where three doctors from three different disciplines cut through the noise and bring nuance and practical insight to conversations about health that actually matter in our day-to-day lives. I'm Vahid, a physician, and I'm joined by Pegah, a doctor of clinical psychology, and Adam, a doctor of physical therapy. We bring our perspectives together to connect the dots and tackle the questions, trends, and everyday issues that can leave people unsure of what to believe or what to do next. No gimmicks, no fads, just real conversations grounded in evidence, experience, and a dose of common sense. You gotta start doing like this, man. I'm laughing because Adam always says something stupid right before the the episode starts recording.
Or
Welcome back.
profound. You don't know it wasn't profound.
Yes, it was profoundly stupid.
Join our
So-
Patreon to hear profound Adam's pre-thoughts.
Today we are gonna go ahead and have Pegah walk us through the mind and shift framework using both examples from Adam's and my life. That way we can see it kind of in action, and I think it'll be a little bit easier to understand that way. Adam is a little more naive to this than I am, but I'm also very much a beginner in this. So I think this will be helpful for us too as individuals. So let's just jump right into it. I am going to just come out and say that I'm having an overwhelming week. I feel a little bit like I'm running out of time this week a lot. So every day I feel like I'm just 30 minutes too short, or not enough time throughout the whole day, and that's equal throughout. So at work, at home, with all of the tasks I got to do. So that's sort of my broad complaint or chronic stress, I guess you could call it. Adam, do you have anything that's been bothering you this week?
Similar time, cup is full situation, close to tipping point with responsibilities shared between running a business, managing patients, all of that, since I'm a solopreneur, and then family, kids' education, social injustice. You want to
School
keep going?
started this week.
School, yep.
Oh
Brand new
man,
kindergartner.
I think new campus for one of my kids, and just the carpool situation on that, I think, is enough for 2 or 3 episodes.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got some material. Pegah, what are you gonna? What do we got to do? How do we
Hey.
Well, tackle this?
You're already in the mode I want you all to be in. You're reflecting, you're taking inventory. One of the things I just suggest is if you have something to write with, in case something becomes clear for you, to kind of take a note for yourself. And also remember that, mind and shift is a process. It's not like you don't want to look at it as like this one and done, outcome driven, like, oh, I just figured it all out and I'm healed. It's more of the beginnings of interacting with the model as a way of bringing it into your life, noticing what it's like when we go through the model and the different letters, and then seeing if you can gain something from it where you can implement some change in your life, even in the model. So one of the things we want to start with, if you remember the letters, I'm going to just quickly go through them. We're going to do a quick mind. We're going to stay more in shift. And what I ask of you is use mind throughout your day, throughout your week. Recognize when you maybe have gotten kind of caught up in the stressor. So with the M of mind is mindfulness. So just for a moment, maybe take a moment. You can kind of close your eyes if you want, take a breath, try to ground yourself in the space you're in.
What's an easy button to mindfulness?
What's that?
Is there an easy button to mindfulness, like a
Yeah.
trick to bring
Yeah.
you in? What would you say that is? How would you do it?
Very first thing is take a breath. And as you take a breath, try to release just a little bit of tension with each breath you take. And begin by pushing your 2 feet into the ground. Really noticing where your feet are connecting to the ground beneath you. Even imagine, if you're on a higher level floor, which I think both of you are, imagine how the ground is held by the structure of the building, which is then ultimately held by the earth. So notice that you're held by the earth. Try to bring awareness to, remember what we talked about before, your 5 senses. They all are located where?
On your face.
On your face. So
What
you
do I
could
win?
more mind and shift.
Fantastic.
So you can start with kind of whichever sense you become most attuned to first. I tend to go with what I hear. Just sort of tune in and notice any sound, any buzzing, kind of the sound of the electricity, even the sound of the air conditioner. Get really tuned in, notice the closest sounds, and see if you can even be aware of more far off sounds, maybe cars passing by. Just keep noticing the sound, and now shift to the next sense. So in this case, Vahid, you might need to open your eyes. If you decide to go with eyes first, let's do that. Just start to get attuned. You don't even have to move your eyes. Just get attuned to whatever the colors are that come into your line of sight. Could be green, blue. In my case, it is green. I'm looking at the wall behind Adam. Adam might notice the white in my hair, in Vahid's beard, in our shirt, his shirt. I also noticed the lit lamp behind Vahid. That's kind of soothing and calm. Just notice it. Now we'll go to the next sense, your sense of smell. Take a deep breath in. Notice if there's a kind of a ambient sense of smell or scent around you. If not, and if you need a little bit more, there you go.
Coffee remnants.
Exactly. I highly recommend people
Actually smell really good.
There you go. So even in that moment, you had the ability to notice something pleasurable. Sometimes it's not pleasurable. If you remember, we don't want to stick too much to the valence, positive or negative. Just notice what it is. Maybe, and if you need to, you might decide you're going to smell the back of your hand, smell the back of your shirt, notice if there's a difference. And then we'll keep moving. Sense of taste might be a little bit weird, but you might have some background taste from lunch, from the coffee you just drank. Just kind of tune in again without negativity. Just name it. And now what's left?
Touch.
Okay, so you can choose something like, what does your left toe feel in this moment? What is your right hip touching in this moment? Is it your pants? Is it the chair beneath you? And then if you need to get even more tuned in, you can even kind of notice if you can sense your fingerprints by moving your hands back and forth a bit. It just really helps you to tune in. You have to be so super tuned in to notice the ridges of your own fingerprints. You can even take your hands and move them vertically on the cloth of whatever cloth you have on, pants. Go vertically in one direction first, and then move it to the other direction. Go horizontally and notice if you can sense a difference in the fibers of your pants. That's a pretty typical way of getting kind of grounded.
It makes me think of my childhood a little bit. Like all of these things are things that, like, if when you were sitting in class, like, you would notice the stuff on your pencil and how the little ridges on it felt and all like, as I'm doing all of this and the smell and taste, I don't know, is it inherent to adulthood that we stop noticing these things? I don't know. We're just so busy, maybe. Sorry,
Possible.
I just a thought that jumped in my head.
I love it. I love it. And that might be a question you might want to jot down for yourself. I was about to say, just notice if you notice anything different. If anything about that was positive or calming or help things kind of slow down. I love this when we're all talking about overwhelm and the days are just kind of running into each other and we're just going, going, going. The capacity to kind of ground in the present moment is like suddenly everything can actually slow down if you let it. And then you can decide what's the next best step. So we're going to move a little bit more quickly through the last 4 letters, but I think it was important for us to kind of spend a little time on mind. So I is introspection, right? It's the willingness. The last 3 are the willingness. So is mindfulness, the willingness to have a stance around this, right? You might be coming in with all the stressors in the world and you absolutely know exactly why you're so stressed out and there's not enough time in the day. But just for the next few moments while you practice this, bring a willingness to just go within and be curious and have a sense of wonder about it, meaning maybe you'll learn something. Maybe you'll learn a pattern about yourself. Maybe you'll learn that your reaction to things aren't like set in stone. They're not. And actually, I think one of the things that's interesting when you do this kind of work is you realize that your reactions to things are unique to you and not everybody has them, right? So not everybody gets road rage. And whereas, I may yell and scream if I'm stressed out. Adam may get super quiet and retreat. And Vahid may get more loud and more aggressive. This is not a time to judge that one of us is worse than the other. A lot of this stuff is not even based on us. It's based on our nervous system that's already built into us. So some of us fight, some of us fly, some of us freeze. And then we have other versions too, like fawn. So just the willingness to be introspective, to be curious, hold that figurative magnifying glass and just observe. The next willingness piece is to name. Be willing to name what you're feeling, what you're noticing. This is part of mindfulness, but the willingness to name without attaching too much to, for example, I get angry and I'm so bad. I'm such a terrible person for getting angry. Or Adam just stops talking when he gets stressed out. I hate that about him. Reserve judgment. Just name without judgment. And then the last piece is detach, right? Detach from outcome, meaning just for the next little bit, don't try to make something so. That may not be very clear right now, but we'll just kind of keep moving. So, and is just a space holder for now. It's the willingness to take some space, keep taking breaths, keep being curious, and then we'll do a little bit more work with that in the long term. What comes up with and, which is the ampersand, which is actually the combination of 2 letters, my emotions and my truth. But sometimes we don't know what our emotions are or what our truth is. It's part of our skill building. Now we're going to step into the work, and let's just imagine we're in a group together. So you both kind of brought up general chronic stress around overwhelm, owning a small business, managing your patients, managing maybe home life. Things might be going on at home. We want to kind of take a look at that. And the other thing not to belabor this, but the kind of the notion of stressor, that really, I believe a true definition of stress is internal. So it's not something is a stressor. It's that there's some stimulus that creates stress on the inside. Stress is an internal process. And that's the kind of angle I want you to come from with this. So let's start with what I want you to do is take the whole week and just pinpoint a moment in time or a scene really narrow it down to a moment in time that really is a good representation of a time when you felt stressed. Don't worry about it too much. It could be, uh, I went a little too late between clients and now I'm starting my next client a little late. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. And when you have that, just go ahead and write it down. I'm not going to have you guys share it. I just want you to kind of go through this, and maybe, folks listening can do the same. So go ahead and write the letter S and then fill in that scene, that moment in time, or that representative stress moment for yourself.
So remind me the S in shift.
Okay.
It stands for
Stimulus.
stimulus. Okay, thank you.
So actually, maybe you kind of can create a little space on your page, or we can go through it one by one. But sometimes I do say, like, I'll put S and I skip a couple of lines, and then I put H, which is history. I skip a couple of lines. I, which is identification, and then skip a couple lines. F is facts, and then T is task. Because I've done this enough to realize that if I'm doing an inventory, I tend to kind of fill in the blanks between S, H, and I. They all kind of come at me at once. So, for what that's worth, you're just kind of taking notes there and doing a bit of like I said, an inventory. The other thing to remember is that S has its own built-in additional layer, which is the notion of stimulus response. Stimulus response model, which I think is actually a model, which basically means we as organisms come into the world and we are constantly interacting with the world. We get information and we respond to it, right? Our response is unique to us. It's not uniform. It's not universal. Now, there are things that are, I'm sure in your worlds, definitely when you're talking about physiology, and in my world too, right? Grief, to loss is a pretty universal response. But even inherent in that, you're going to see some variations. So that's what I want to kind of help you all to see, is that your unique response is your own. So Viktor Frankl, one of my favorite folks of all time, he says the space between the stimulus and your, I think he says reaction. Either way, response, reactions, there's a little bit of a difference between the two. Reaction is kind of automatic, right? It's like, you hit the reflex of your knee, the automatic reaction is whatever it does. Adam, you can tell us. My knee kicks a little. So that's a little bit more automatic, or you can imagine physiologically the stimulus reaction. Here, we want to use the word response to help you to have a little bit of, what would I say, feel empowered around it, that the response can change, that it doesn't have to be set in stone once you get some clarity around what that is. So I would draw a line, S, R, and then kind of create a little space. And then underneath that, I would say cognitions, emotions, sensations, and inclinations. Now, just as a reminder again, so as you're doing this, you might need more room to take that and really expand on it. So taking that moment of stress that you've picked for yourself, think back on that moment and try to see if you can recall, or even in this moment, you can think back on that moment and notice what the thoughts are now. So it's a bit of a different thing, right? If I say to you, what were you thinking at the time? It's a bit of a difference than what are you thinking right now as you recall that moment. So you can do both. I think both are kind of valuable, but if we kind of rely on what's here now. But imagine whatever that is, what were your thoughts at the time? Or what are your thoughts now as you're recalling that moment? Because right now, what we stimulated inside of you is a memory of that moment. Also, what are the feelings? Maybe you feel ashamed. Maybe you feel annoyed. Maybe you feel angry. Maybe you feel frustrated that you didn't do it better. Maybe you feel sad.
So is
Notice
it,
it. Mhm.
sorry to interject, is it sort of expected that if you're thinking of something that has already passed, so you're not applying this to something you're feeling right now. So if I'm thinking about, let's say Tuesday, right? A couple of days ago, that I'm going to have different emotions, sensations, inclinations than what I remember. Is that sort of
That's right.
okay?
It
Okay.
it's generally that way. But what we're developing here is the act of paying attention, the
Okay.
act of tuning in, so that you might be able to use mind and shift or just SR in the moment. Like, imagine whatever it is. Vahid, do you want to give your example for us to just follow it? Or
Sure. It's still kind of vague, but yeah, I don't mind. I was thinking to myself, if I had to, Adam, do you have one very specific? I don't mind sharing.
To which one in particular?
The stimulus.
The or the cognitions, emotions, sensations, or inclinations, or just the stimulus?
let's just do the stimulus and kind of have for the listeners to kind of have something to follow with us.
Okay.
I know I told you to don't say it and write it down, but now I'm changing my mind.
Yeah. What the
Do you
hell?
feel comfortable? If you don't feel
Sure.
comfortable, I
No, this
can
is
just.
fine. It's kind of a weird, random, nerdy one though.
Cool.
Okay, then more reason I want to hear yours.
Okay. Pulling all of my financial account vehicles under my own management out away from my financial advisor.
All right. Hopefully, your financial advisor is not a listener
I
to
know.
the pod.
Sorry.
Well, I think we have like 17
Awesome.
listeners, so the chances of that are low. Um,
Okay, good example, right? So it's a moment in time where you're actually in the midst of transferring all of your accounts under your own name and out of your financial advisor's name, right? Okay. And as you think back on that moment now, you can either be aware of what you were thinking at the time, which you might, which is good, or you might, like when you just said that, I felt nauseous. So I had a response to your stimulus that you
I
just
thought you were
shared.
going to say face. Okay.
Yeah. You see what I mean? So
Sure.
in the present moment, I felt stressed for my own set of reasons.
Hmm. Interesting.
Whatever association I have with my finances and my financial advisor and my, whatever retirement plan, whatever it is. So in this moment, it could be your current thoughts. I'm thinking, whatever, I'm not going to fill in your blanks. And your current set of emotions, you may have access to it, you may not. This is why I like to be able to move around and not fill in anything that I don't have. Or to me, I feel sensations first, always. I'm not quite so sure what I'm thinking and feeling, but I do know I just had a wave of heat come over me and my stomach churned, right? And then also notice you may have an idea of like what you were doing at the time. Like, for example, one inclination might be you might work a little and then you might check your email, you might work a little, you might get up and grab a piece of candy, you might work a little, like you might be in like kind of avoiding if it feels like too overwhelming, right? If something is on your plate that feels too overwhelming, you might actually be engaged in some kind of inclination that might be nice for you to know about. Does that make sense? What I mean?
Yes, that's actually my coffee break. Like it's sort of, yeah, that's a common pattern for me. As soon as it's getting overwhelming, like I use the time it takes to make the coffee to get my head where I need it to be to basically convince myself that I can handle this,
Yeah.
and then come back, and then I also have like a tasty treat, right? So it's like a bonus. That's sort of my pattern, which isn't great because I end up drinking maybe sometimes too much coffee if it's particularly useful. But yeah, that's mine. Do you have one, Adam? Do you do something like that, or you just go at it?
It depends on my environment, I guess. Usually I'm a big avoidance guy. So any of the easy tactics to avoid hopping on Reddit, flipping on the TV,
Hmm.
playing with my kids.
Right.
Listening to music, yeah. Anything where I don't have to. Or I do a lot of calendar notes, and it'll pop up, and I'll hit reschedule for next week. Push that baby off, because
Okay.
it's still, I mean, technically, I haven't not done it if I've rescheduled it, you know what I'm saying?
So you're a procrastinator.
Oh, all caps on the pro.
I just
Yeah.
made that up, so yeah.
That's pretty good.
Thank
That's
you.
pretty good. Good dad joke. I like it.
Thank
Uh,
you. Yeah, so as you're noticing though, something to just this is why suspending judgment is good because you are self-regulating. You're going, there's this thing I need to do, and I need to bring my overwhelm down to a manageable place in order for me to continue. Now, of course, I joked about procrastinating, but that unfortunately can become quite a habit, right? And then you can see people who procrastinate, and then it does impact their productivity. But a lot of times, before you ever procrastinate, there's something that's too overwhelming in your environment that's leading you to procrastinate. Imagine when it used to be for a lot of people, they might currently recall this or have this in their lives, or we can definitely look back on every building and every business had a smoke station, smoke area, right? And it used to be that people would go and hang out and smoke for 15 minutes. They used to have smoke breaks built into their lives. And I do think that, some started to realize, wait a minute, you get a smoke break, but what about another break, right? What about a 15-minute anything break? Um, and so, but the idea of the smoke break, well, of course, there was the nicotine that calms you down, but there was the social component of being around other people. There was actually even just going outside, looking around, taking a deep breath. It just so happened you also had a cigarette in your hand. So when I was working in another life of mine around smoking cessation, we would talk about what is this thing that you get out of your quote bad habit, right? You get, like you said, Vahid, you get that time as long as you can watch the coffee be made, you get to just take a break and take a breath. And the same was true with you, Adam. Like you get to go and, you know, interact with your kids a little and detach from work and go into your head. There's a lot that can be said around about idle time. So, as we're talking about this, notice how maybe intentionally building breaks into our days, we've got to be a little bit more deliberate about that, right? Because it's already there. It just may not be serving you as well as it could be. So inclination was big for the two of you. Anything else you might want to share that was interesting to you about your cognitions, your emotions, or your sensations that you're learning in this moment? Curious about?
Um, I would just say I'm way more compassionate with myself after the fact. So, like in the moment, there's a lot more negative self-talk. There's the words I wrote is like just feelings of being inadequate and whatnot. Um, and then when I think back to it, I go, well, of course not, right? Like that's like completely well within your scope of things, and you handled it well, blah blah blah. Like I can talk to myself positively, but only afterwards.
Yes.
It's hard for me to do it in the moment when the stimulus is there, and my response is one of a little bit of panic, a little bit of am I going to be enough for this, or am I going to have enough time for this? And a lot of times that's what it is. Speaking of which, I do want to make sure that Adam gets to um,
5 o'clock.
make his next appointment. So recapping, we're at the S of shift. Before that, we got grounded, we got mindful, we explored this sense of wonder with this willingness to basically essentially take all of this in. What's next? How do we move through the rest of this shift in a way that
Great.
will bring us home?
Actually, you did a really good job there. Thank you for sharing such a vulnerable thing. I think sharing your cognitions is a pretty vulnerable way of approaching this because people don't like to say I beat myself up in the moment, right? But this brings us right into H. Um, whether it's the stimulus or the reaction or response, or you can see specifically the cognitions, the emotions, the body sensations, and the inclinations. Just take a moment and notice if there's anything about this that's familiar to you, specifically as it relates to your history. Maybe you have a clue as to how you develop that internal critic that first tells you you can't do something, or first says you don't have enough time. And eventually, over time, something a little bit more compassionate comes online. But in the moment when you're stressed out, you go right to that automatic negative thinking. Or when you're overwhelmed and stressed out, your default is to avoid and go and do something that's kind of soothing. Do you know anything about that as a pattern in your own past? Yeah, and as you do, it could be your own, it could be something you learned. So if you feel comfortable, we'll go through that pretty quickly, I know, but is there anything about that that either of you feel comfortable sharing?
Oh, there's that pretty standard history on my procrastination. A lot of physiologic responses to my procrastination with the increased heart rate and anxiety related symptoms to things I need to get done, whether it's a huge thing or a tiny thing. It all evokes pretty similar physiology on me.
That's really important to understand, right? That your response to the stimulus is yours, and it's pretty consistent, and there's an interesting pattern to it. Just to take note. What about you, Vahid?
Mine, mine goes way back in every stage. So back in residency, just yeah, always feeling that it was worse. There was just never enough time for anything. There was always fires to put out, and you were very early praised and quite often berated in front of your peers. So that maybe some of this negative self-talk comes from there. I don't know. And then going back even beyond that, moments in school growing up where I took it really quickly, really far back. I don't want to take too much time talking about it, but absolutely see a history of similar um, sensations, similar sort of response to different, going all the way spanning childhood to adulthood.
Yeah. Good. One thing that's really good about that in both of you is that I think we can hold compassion for children differently than we hold compassion for ourselves and for adults. So just for this moment, just if you do have compassion for your child self, if you know what that means, if you don't, I get it. But just imagine yourself that little kid who was feeling overwhelmed, trying to learn how to do life, and how he must have been struggling, and just holding that compassion in that moment. You might imagine a smaller you walking around. I have an image of myself in a backpack with lots of books in it, right? And then, and hashtag bag problems. But here we are, right? But it kind of gives me, sort of, I hold myself lovingly. And compassion is a huge part of mindfulness, actually. It's not just becoming present, it's also holding compassion for yourself, especially with work like this. All right, 10 minutes, here we go. So we're going to move on to identification. Identification is kind of like the outfit you wear all the time. Like, it's how you see yourself in the world, the rules that you carry about yourself and others. And these go back to what we were talking about last time about cognitive distortions. Usually the identification comes out as like rigid rules or rigid shorthand that we use to make sense of ourselves. Okay, so I want to just leave that there and see how you pick up on what I mean by, okay, the question I usually ask is, how are you identifying in this moment? So going back to your original S, that moment in time, noticing the stressors, the stress that's inside of you, noticing what's around you. What are some rules that you're carrying about yourself? I should, I am.
For me, it's clear. Yeah.
Go for
Not
it.
enough.
I'm
It's
not
just,
enough.
I'm not enough. That's just, it goes way back. Like, this is actually really cool making these connections. I'm enjoying it, by the way. It's not like a sad thing, just for anybody listening. It's kind of eye opening. I'm like, oh crap, my whole life I've felt not enough, for different reasons throughout, and it's sort of repeating itself. So that was pretty cool. That identifier. Yeah,
Vahid, you went really deep down, right? This is kind of
I
you.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a global sense of yourself. Sometimes we don't go as deep. It could be little
Okay.
things like, I should be a good clinician. Uh, you know, I'm the I have to carry my family. I have to I have to be everything for my clients. That's one of the things I struggle with, that I have to be the all caring, all loving, available person for my clients. It's a mindset. What about you, Adam? What you got?
Mine is underperforming.
Okay. So you see, we talked about the core beliefs, right? The both of you can go to kind of more of a core belief, whereas where I stopped was at conditional belief, right? I should be X, Y, and Z. And then at the core of it, it's likely something about whatever it might be. I'm underperforming. So a constant sense of I'm underperforming. Does that sound familiar to you, Adam? I'm
Yeah.
not doing enough.
Yep. I
I'm
kind
not.
of have the opposite, I think, to Vahid, where I feel like there's too much time in my day, then I'm not using it wisely enough, even if I literally have 0 free minutes.
Got it. Interesting. So interesting. Big part of this is self-awareness. Okay, so we did all this work. Now we're going to get into just the last two pieces so you can leave with something. What you want to do is, and it's a hard task, but as you do it over time, it'll get easier. You want to be able to name in that moment just the facts of what was occurring, not who you are, not what you should have done differently. This is where you detach from outcome and let the facts just be there. Like, name them like bullet points just for a couple minutes. Recall what was going on at the time.
Facts of our original stimulus.
Yes. Just be very non-judgmental. Try to stay neutral.
Shit, I don't really know what the facts are. It's all seemed bogged down in my perception of the events.
Interesting.
Because I'm just like, well, I felt this and this.
Right. So, yes, which are the facts, but you want to even be even more surface about it. Just imagine you're the observer, right? Like sort of the scientist observer. We all had to learn to do that in school. Like, if I'm writing a report as a clinician, I have to stay in my observer mind and just report what I see. I'm sure, Adam, you've got to do the same. Vahid, you have to do the same. So as clinicians, we've been trained to bring the observer mind into the situation without infusing our own beliefs or reactions or responses. Try to do that. So for example, let's take one of your examples and see if we can kind of flesh it out.
I can tell you real quick. This was really easy for me. Um, so my stimulus that I never shared was being in unscheduled complex situations where there's a need from me as a clinician that wasn't on the schedule, right?
Yes.
And it's getting jammed in on top of other stuff. And then all of a sudden I've had a plan for this hour and then I have to split it up. That's what led to everything else. The facts, looking back on it, I can just say handled it very well, overperformed, went above and beyond, um, very capable is how I think of it. It's kind of almost the opposite of everything
I'm
before
going to even
because
pause
when,
you there. I'm going to even pause
yeah,
you there.
yeah,
I want you to just name the facts of the events. You were in a situation where you had clients back to back and you were on schedule or on time, and then what happened? some stimulus, you got a phone call, right? Or like something where someone asked something of you. Name that fact, even the what time it was, what were you doing, how long was it? You see what I mean?
Okay. I'm just trying. I don't want to share anything too
Yeah.
detailed because I'm dealing with patient stuff.
Careful.
Yeah. Um,
Doctor, you got my butt fell off. Is that the call you got?
yeah, that's exactly the call. It was Adam. I didn't want to share, but yeah. Um, okay. So I got a call with unexpected news. All right. Clinically relevant, unexpected news that's potentially changes the whole treatment plan, right? Um, so that was one of the things within that same hour. There was a couple of things going on. So that's that specific thing. And so sorry, what was my instruction? What am I to do?
That's it. So
Facts.
you
Okay.
go
That's it.
through
That's the
and
fact. Okay.
you say factually, you know, in the middle of the day, I got that this certain time, I got this, and it was this. And even the potentially changes, the treatment plan was actually thinking too far into the future.
Mhm. Okay.
You
So
could
just
say,
okay.
well,
I think I understand now.
one of the reasons why it's a good idea to do that is because the pressure to be perfect in an imperfect arena situation, it was actually coming from yourself. Like, this is a curveball, this is new information, but you're actually expecting yourself to operate as though you knew. This is just my assumption, which I don't like to do when we're doing mind and shift, but naming the facts, really slowing it down. Okay, 2 minutes, we're at task. Okay, in having done this, I know I'm asking a lot of you because you might have to interact with the material a little bit longer. Is there anything you're aware of now in having gone through the process that could be a next best step in implementing something just a little bit better for yourself? I'm not asking, I know I'm not being too specific here because it's really important that you recognize what's coming up for you. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if this is correct, like if this is what you're asking, but I need to delegate more.
There you go. Be specific. So if that
Okay.
realization is coming to you, not right now, but try to put it into action steps. All three of us work on action steps all the time with our clients and patients. What are the specific action steps that you need to take in order to make sure that you offload? Okay, so there's
Again, I have to be careful exactly what I share.
no, I'm not
Um,
saying share
yeah,
because I know
if Adam, if you want, because I don't want to like take up the airtime just thinking here quietly. So
Okay, I'm gonna go with because I was having a really hard time identifying facts, trying to remember back. So it was a lot of veil of emotions. So I think what would be helpful for me would be immediately after an event that causes me some of that anxiety is to try to write down the facts of it,
there you
and that'll
go.
help me
So
differentiate.
beautiful. That's a great tool. So you can just put that right in your back pocket right now. Is that post stressor? There you go. Post stressor. If I can just slow myself down and notice the facts. So interestingly enough, Adam, your emotions tend to come up and maybe overwhelm you, confuse you, which is the case for a lot of us. We may not self-identify as emotions first, but we may be. You may notice, and the more you do this work, you may start to notice, wait a minute, I have more emotions than I'm willing to admit. One of the other things I want to offer is Vahid, just like Adam's going to do some fact checking. That's what we call it, fact checking. You can also kind of notice if you can write down a little bit of your self-criticism post within minutes. Just sort of start to be tuned into that inner critic, and you can really rein that inner critic in. The other thing I wrote just for the both of you is to sit down a little bit and see if you can bring in some kind of breathing coping mechanism before you decide to disconnect and avoid? Or let's say, Vahid, you tell yourself, okay, I've had coffee and a sweet treat twice today. Let me try to just take a moment, decompress, take a few deep breaths, walk around, breathe, get grounded, and notice if you get a similar experience to when you're using the other coping mechanisms. So I want to just pause there and see.
Adam, if you need to go, feel free to just leave the call because I know you have an important meeting coming up. And we can
I
wrap up. Yeah.
appreciate you, Pegah.
See you, buddy. Okay. So you were saying?
I love it. This is like real clinicians doing their thing,
Yeah.
having to show up, and we're all very time based, right? The work that we
Yeah.
do is based on the clock, hour to hour. This is how we have our relationship set up with our patients and clients and how we make money. So I'm glad that the time piece also came into our conversation today.
This is actually very relevant. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so you were saying to then, within minutes to write down some of those self-criticisms and
Yeah.
then to come up with other, so maybe a breathing or other mechanisms other than, let's say, drinking a coffee. Um, which it's interesting because I tell my patients this all the time, and I don't necessarily practice it in the same way that I teach it, which I'm just noticing as you're saying it. I'm like, hold on, I say that. Why am I not doing that? Um, and so I like that. How, like, what could be a good trigger for me to remember to do that? Like, I guess I would approach it the way I approach behavior change um, in my line of work would be to maybe put like a sticky note on my espresso machine. And when I go there and say, hey, try this instead. Um,
Or in addition, for
or
now,
in addition, yeah,
maybe you
okay.
just say, okay,
Yeah, do
as I'm
some box
doing
breathing or something like that.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Just like, man, like, vitamin breathe,
Mhm.
it's like, God, it's accessible to us all the time. And we live in the modern world where our breathing is usually shallow. So even just bringing a little bit of breath into your abdomen and releasing, you have gotten just, I mean, I don't know, 10 times healthier just by doing that. So if you do that, notice what difference it might make. The other thing, uh, as an advocate of mindfulness and breathing and relaxation, is that you may have. I don't want to foreshadow it, but maybe I do. If you take this moment and take a breath and really, decompress, you may bring in some creativity to the situation. Does, does that make sense? So sorry, I lost you on the screen there, but hopefully you can see me well. Um, that like what you just described was a puzzle, right? You got stumped by something. Oh no, like new information. How do I make sense of it? How do I integrate it? How do I do something different? If you calm your own system down and come back to the puzzle, something might be clearer that wasn't before.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure. That's been clear to me in the past that um, I can't. I mean, we know this physiologically too, right? But in practice, I can't think as well or nearly half as well as I can when I'm calm. So yeah, that's very very helpful in high stress situations where we have to do that. Um, I guess I always associate that with very very high stress, like life or death scenarios, which I thankfully don't deal with anymore. Um, but being able to sort of be calm in any size storm, even like a mini storm in your daily schedule, right? I think is helpful because then I can think straight uh, and
Well,
realize that.
we've talked about, well, in the stress world, we say, our modern day tigers. So you may not be dealing with life or death anymore, but those modern day tigers, they still follow us around. So
Yeah, absolutely.
hopefully that made
So
sense.
It does. It does. Yeah. I mean, to me, it makes sense, but just in case it doesn't to anybody out there, like basically the fight or flight response of this predator, right? It's no longer this big, scary animal that's going to rip you limb from limb. It's the kind of like the big, scary world, right? Um, so I totally get it. In less than a minute, if you had to summarize again, I just want to drill into these letters. Like, okay, so can you just summarize the letters you just took us through, what they meant, and just like a line on each of them? So and we'll wrap with that just to keep that fresh in everybody's mind.
Okay, mindful. Mind is mindfulness. Ground yourself in the present moment, get really clear with where you are, and bring a little bit of compassion into the situation. I is introspection, a willingness to turn within, and a really willingness to notice what is here that's coming from inside of you, not so much what's outside of you. N is naming, a willingness to name the facts, name the situation as it is without imbuing your own reactions or responses to it just for the moment. Just name it like it is without judging. D, detachment from outcome. Let go of the rules and what should be the case, just so that you can get a little bit of clarity on what's here for now. Okay, and ampersand E, emotion and truth, which we will get to later. And then S. I think S is very important. You asked me how do we do this in real time? So if I keep track of everything in my life as a stimulus, and so when I have a moment where I am experiencing the stimulus, that is my clue to check in with myself. Hopefully that made sense. I think I lost you.
No, no, I can hear you clearly. Sometimes the image will get grainy, but the sound is clear and consistent. I hear you. Yeah.
And so that's for me is the thing. What's the stimulus? The second I can say what's the stimulus, I can go inside and do mind. And then what am I thinking, feeling, sensing in my body, and inclined to do? What's familiar about this historically, not only just for myself, but my own my own patterns in life, that little girl with the heavy backpack, and what were the patterns around me that developed that pattern inside of me? We are little sponges when we're kids. So what was I picking up on? Not just within the family, but also within the larger culture and with the overall zeitgeist of the world. What were the rules and the messages that were around? That's HI, identification. Um, what are the rules that I'm carrying about myself globally? Whether it's I'm not enough that follows me around, and then when I'm stressed out, it comes out and it berates me, or a conditional belief like I should be perfect in order to be loved. I should be perfect in order to be accepted. And how do I operate from there that then puts even more pressure on myself to show up in that stressed out way? Finally, if you can, I know this is a um, new skill for a lot of people, just try to then name the facts as they are. One of the reasons why we want to do that is because it just helps you to be able to see the situation with not so much as much noise. Like Adam said, I'm way more in my emotions. I'm not remembering the situation very clearly. So if you can kind of clarify what was really going on in that moment, what was really being asked of me, and what was I imbuing that made it even more stressful? And finally, what after doing the exercise itself, do you have some kind of clarity about how you might want to move forward, even if it's just a small way, like Vahid, you said, putting a post-it on your coffee maker to remind you to take a couple of deep breaths, because once you're headed there, you're coping, right? So tag on another thing to cope.
Fantastic. I love it. And you could use this, because Adam and I kind of had similar-ish stuff, right? More like work-related type, maybe not exactly the same, but I mean, what if I just had an argument with my sibling? Could I walk through that? Like I'm thinking about that. I'm going, okay, boom, 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 or maybe your boss, or maybe your spouse, or maybe your whatever. go through it and say those things. Is it helpful, or is this, not recommended, that in the facts part, the way that I'm having to do it so that I can achieve the goal of writing down the facts is I have to think about myself as if I'm someone else. Like, if I was Adam saying these things, what would I say to Adam were the facts? That's so much easier for me to conceptualize and to say, well, of course, those are the facts. Boom, 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 boom. There you go, Adam. Because I can't do that for myself.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yes, taking that third person perspective is
Yeah.
great. That was
Okay,
kind of
cool.
similar to the compassion for the child, right? If you
Mhm.
imagine a child, so imagine you're sitting across from Adam or one of your patients or someone else. Like, we advise people, right? We guide people all the time. And then when we try to do it for ourselves, we get way too overwhelmed and confused. So fact checking is really just to sort of try to whittle it down to the basics of what was really going on at the time, to just get a little bit more clarity and see, okay, what does that situation now need that can help in the future, that can be just a little bit better, a little bit different. And then we kind of develop our list of, you know, coping strategies from there.
That was really, really helpful for me, like doing an example. I'm hoping um, it had a similar effect for other people. I'm pretty sure Adam also better understood my niche shift that way. But also, what becomes clear is that this is something that is a practice, and I know that. But doing the example makes it even more clear for me that this is something that needs to be practice and practice until it's kind of second nature. And like any practice, you get to the core of what you're trying to get to faster, the better, the more practice you have with it. So I
Exactly.
love that. I'd love to revisit this and future episodes, and maybe we can talk about the emotions and truth. I think that would be a good thing to expand on the ET and the ampersand, the et, I guess. I don't know. Is that how you pronounce it in Latin? Um, okay. Cool. Well, I've enjoyed it. Thank you for sharing your expertise, Pegah. That was awesome.
Absolutely.
Really loved it and enjoyed it. I hope
Thank you.
everyone else did as well.
Thank you
Take
so much.
care. All right. Thanks for spending some time with us today on Take 3 and Call Me in the Morning. We hope today's conversation gave you something to think about. If you enjoyed the episode, consider subscribing, leaving a review, or just sharing it with someone who you think would appreciate it. If you want to learn more about us and our individual practices, you can check out Pegah's practice on her website, livingfullytherapy.com. If you're interested in Adam's physical therapy practice, you can learn more about his practice on his website, equalizerhealth.com. And if you want to know more about my practice, you can go ahead and check us out at healthyconditions.com. Just a quick reminder before we go, remember this podcast is for informational purposes only, not intended as medical advice. So please talk to your healthcare provider about what's right for you. Until next time, and don't forget, be kind to yourself.